How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, April 4th, 2021. Happy Easter. How are you guys doing? My name is James Sims. For this episode of The Elite, I plan on doing a championship preview for the men's National Basketball Championship following this incredible March Madness mania where we've seen the tournament shrink from 68 teams to two. There's only two teams remaining. After we've seen teams go out a crazy amount of ways, only one team was eliminated because of a COVID outbreak. We saw one team make it from the four play-in games all the way to the Final Four. And now once it's all said and done, we now have the number one seed from the West region, Gonzaga, facing off against the number one seed from the South, Baylor, after they both went through 5 incredibly tough games to make it to where they are right now. I'm gonna provide context and give a little bit of just a little bit of background to understand how both these teams got here. For the specific into each game, I do have previews for the other rounds, but just really getting into this one, just gonna get into how both these teams got here. So, but first off, this game is set for tomorrow night, Monday, April 5th, 2021 at 9:20. The game will be on CBS and it'll be in Lucas Oil Stadium, as the national championship for women's basketball is tonight. But looking out to how these teams got here, first looking out to Baylor. Baylor came into this bracket with a 22-2 record following a semifinal loss in the Big 12 championship. But of course, in the very first round, they would face off against 16 seed Hartford and win that game 79-55. I give the details for that game in the round of 32 preview. In the second round, they would face off against 9 seed Wisconsin, as they would end up beating Wisconsin 76-63 to make it out of the first weekend, make it to the second weekend. Once they made it to the Sweet 16, they would end up coming back from being down about 7 or 8 at halftime, and they beat Villanova 62-51 to make it to the Elite Eight, where they would face off against 3 seed Arkansas to make it out of the South. Once they faced off against Arkansas, they were able to win 81-72 to make it past that round and make it through the second weekend and into the Final Four. Going into yesterday's matchup, they would face off against 2 seed Houston, who was the number 2 seed coming out of the Midwest Division. And in this matchup, first off, Baylor would end up taking a 45-20 lead going into halftime. They outscored Houston by 25. The game was roughly over at about that time. But for Baylor, of course, it would end up being their guard, Jared Butler, who had 17 points and 5 rebounds, as well as 2 steals to help him get there. Davion Mitchell had 12 points and 11 rebounds as well. But with the combined effort of the entire team, the number 1 seed Baylor Bears out of the South region will make it to the national championship. And the team they will be facing is probably one of the toughest teams that we've ever seen make it here. Gonzaga makes it to this tournament after coming off of a 26-0 season, where of course they won the West Coast Conference. They won their bracket. They came into this, or they won their conference. They came into this tournament completely undefeated, and they look to be one of the undefeated teams to walk away with this as a champion. They came into the first round. They faced off against a 16 seed that had to play in. They faced off against Norfolk State. In that matchup, they would beat Norfolk State by 43 points. They won that game 98-55. In the second round, they would beat 8 seed Oklahoma 87-71 after Oklahoma had to play incredibly perfect, and they still couldn't even stay close to Gonzaga. Of course, I have more details for these games in the previews for the other rounds. So that's how they made it through the first weekend. Going into the second weekend, they would face off against 5 seed Creighton, and they would beat Creighton by 18 as well, make it through the next round to make it to the Elite Eight. To make it out of the Western Conference, they would have to beat a 6 seed USC team that ended up beating the brakes off of Drake, 3 seed Kansas, and 7 seed Oregon. But Gonzaga would beat them 85-66 incredibly comfortably to make it to the Final Four. And after beating USC, they had to beat the other USC crosstown rival, UCLA, the team that made it out of the East Division after they beat 1 seed Michigan. This matchup would go all the way to overtime. Yet another UCLA game that was forced into overtime, but this time fate would not go their way. This game would go into overtime as both halves were incredibly close, and it would come down to a buzzer-beating three-pointer from just inside half court by their freshman Jalen Suggs to win them the game. For Johnny Juzang, for UCLA's leading scorer, Johnny Juzang, he had 29 points and 6 rebounds and a couple of steals as he played 45 minutes in what might be his last college basketball game, but was definitely one for the ages. For Gonzaga, Drew Timme was their leading scorer as he had 25 points, 4 rebounds, and a couple of steals. Suggs had 16 points, of course, 3 of them coming with that incredible three-point shot. And then Ayayi would finish with 22 points and 6 rebounds of his own. With this win, Gonzaga is now 31-0. They have not lost a game, and they are ready to face off against Baylor at 9:20 tomorrow on CBS, as this looks to be one of the better national championship games. And, of course, once this game is finished, I will finish with a championship profile, because at the end of the day, there were 68 competing narratives, and now there's only 2. There are 2 competing narratives, and only one team can be the national champion. Only one team can be the national champions for the 2021 season. With that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 6.5 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well. My name is James Sims, and I will get back once this game is finished with a championship profile. I want to thank everyone for sticking around with me for the entirety of this March Madness. This has been insane, but I want to thank everyone because this is the first time I've really covered March Madness. Once again, I hope everyone has a great day. I hope everyone has a good one. With that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece, and peace out. I'll catch you in a couple days. I'm James Sims, and this is The Elite.